Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons, by people who love The Simpsons, about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
And today we have another episode for you from season 16. It originally aired in February of 2005, and it is called Homer and Ned's Hail Mary Pass. Jack, have you seen this one?
Probably. I have no idea what it's about, so I don't know.
I also have no idea what it's about. It was pretty heavily requested. We got requests from, let's see, what listeners suggested this. Someone named Rebo Chan suggested this, so thank you. Shames Bayani, who I think was in our Cut All This a couple weeks ago. Someone named Kavan, thanks for that. And Tyler Petty.
So a lot of people either really hate this episode or maybe really like it.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not good, but we'll see. We'll find out. I think it has to do with football, since
it's not the Super Bowl Sunday one. That's early in season 16.
The one with what's his face?
Fred Willard.
Yeah, Fred Willard. No, it's not that one. No,
okay.
no. I like that episode. I think it's a good one. But
that's another show.
Maybe we'll do it.
That's another show.
We have a guest on with us today, and we'll get to him in a moment. But if you have not seen this episode yet, you can do so on SimpsonsWorld.com. If you live in the U.S., if you don't, you can buy it on Amazon. You can do things on the internet that will allow you to get episodes. We won't talk about that.
Illegally pirate.
No, we do not support that.
I didn't say I support it. I was just saying that's a thing that you can do. Just like murdering people and stealing from banks.
Wait, you can just murder people?
You can.
I'll be right back.
There's consequences, but you can.
No, I didn't hear that part. I'm just leaving. I'll be back later. All right, I'm back. Guys, if you like the show like we're doing, go to our website. It's wepodcast.com. Click through the Amazon links and just shop like you normally would on Amazon. That helps us keep the show free and keep everything, keep us in Popeyes and wacky bus stop characters.
It helps us play.
That's right. Yeah, you already did it. I was going to say the line again.
Just say the line again. That's all right.
Iron helps us play. It was fun to say it like that. Okay, so we're going to take a break. We're going to watch the episode. If you have not done so, you should do that, and we'll be back.
I've got a venue the whole world will be watching and nothing to fill it with.
Wait a minute. You've got a medium, and I've got a message. Maybe God brought us together for a reason.
Yeah, you help me, and I in turn am helped by you.
So, that was Homer and Ned's Hail Mary Pass.
You got it. All right, good. Yeah.
It only took 39 tries.
Yeah, there it was.
Oof. Before we get into it, I guess we should introduce our guest, Dan Ozzie. How's it going, Dan?
Hey, how's it going?
Friend of the show, Simpsons.
I am a friend of
Simpsons
the show.
Guy.
People are like, "Who are your
host.
friends?" And I'm like, "Dan,
the show,
Christopher,
Worst
this
episode ever
podcast." Yeah,
podcast.
those are my friends.
That's
my
good.
core group of friends.
For those of you who don't know, Dan hosts Simpsons Trivia in Brooklyn with other Dan, with this Dan here.
Which is not confusing for people.
Too many
at all.
Dans. Yeah.
And he's also been on the show before as one of our first guests way back in episode 9.
Episode 9 for the wonderful Lady Gaga episode.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm so glad we could bring you back for an equally terrible episode.
Yeah, and if you want to get an idea of Dan's history with The Simpsons and Simpsons profiles, we call it, just pause this and listen back to that. And
Yeah,
come
go
back
listen
again.
to that episode.
Yeah, please listen.
We should also probably mention that Dan is a writer for Vice.com.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I was
yeah.
invited. I wrote about how bad the Lady Gaga was objectively, as ranked by the fans, the worst episode ever.
Oh, yeah.
And you also had a cool article last week with you went on a date with Natalie and
I did.
Brulia.
Yeah. Who's never been on The Simpsons?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you ask? You should ask her about that.
Yeah, that was my number one question.
Have you ever been in The Simpsons? Why not?
So yeah.
So let's get into this episode because we're gonna have to just rip it off like a Band-Aid at some point.
Yeah.
Quick plot recap. The Homer and they go to a charity auction where it's a carnival. I guess that's where we'll start. They go to a carnival. Flanders.
Wait, I don't even remember that.
It feels like a lifetime ago.
I was like reverse engineering the plot in my
How
head.
did we get there?
So, real quick, Flanders wins a video camera at an auction. That'll come back later. Homer beats Bart at a game of what I call Frog Bog. I forget what they called it in this thing. It's one of my favorite boardwalk games.
Yeah, you launch the frog onto a lily pad.
Exactly. And he does a very, very long, extended celebration dance for beating Bart at this one carnival game.
Then Bart vanishes.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. And this video of that goes viral, and it gets the attention of some professional football players and the NFL, and then eventually other athletes like LeBron James, Tom Brady, Warren Sapp, Michelle Kwan, Yao Ming. And they all basically hire Homer to design their Endzone celebration dances, or whatever the ice skating equivalent
is for figure skating and basketball.
So Homer becomes famous doing that, and he gets to design the Super Bowl halftime show, and he has writer's block. So he teams up with Ned Flanders, who in the B plot is making a Passion of the Christ type violent Bible films that were very popular. But then because Marge didn't like them, he stopped.
We'll talk about that.
And then they make a halftime show in a similar vein, and everybody hates it because for this one episode they depict America as secular humanist rather than religious. And then it ends.
Interesting, though, that those two plots did cross paths, because usually from the newer ones that I've watched, it's just a mess of like, here's the 4 plots that are happening at once, but these ones actually came together in the end, which
surprising.
I'll applaud them for at least trying.
I would say that's
the bare minimum of effort.
We're going to probably rip some new ones into this episode, but structurally speaking, I think it's one of the stronger ones we've seen, at least out of the crappier. I'm assuming this is going to be in our second half of Worst Ones.
I'm assuming.
I would say structurally, I think it's fairly sound. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So it starts off with them going into the Springfield Park.
Yeah, and the park is kind of just fallen into disarray. There's garbage everywhere. And there was a funny...
apt metaphor for the show.
Yeah, and it was only 10 seasons ago. But yeah, like the park has fallen into disrepair, and there's a... They made a joke. There was a sign. It was like Springfield Park, Field of Pride, and a bunch of the letters had fallen off.
Fell the Prid.
It said "Fell the Prid," and Homer was like, "Oh no, the Prid is gone." And I just felt like in a classic episode, they would have put a little bit more effort into like how the letters fell off.
The sign would have
do it for her. Remember that
something
stuff?
like that, or it would have spelled out something funny.
Something funny. It wouldn't have just
not just like, "Oh, Prid, that's not the word," and Homer doesn't know because he's a fucking idiot.
I read it a couple times. I was like looking for the joke.
Me too.
I was like, what am I missing? And then, so you're right, 100% right about that. And then on top of that, I feel like in the classic episode, they would just be content with it being in the background, not have Homer spell it out.
And also, like, I started to think in it for a second. I was like, oh, well, it must be hard to find a joke in Feel the Pride or whatever it was. But then I was like, wait, you can make it say whatever you want. And then, like, change it.
To say Feel the Pride.
It's like not a real, like, you can write it from the air. Like,
you could start with the joke punchline and like work backwards.
No, it was a very interesting choice for them to
an odd choice as a first joke in the episode. In quotes.
So again, I've used this metaphor dozens of times, but I'm pretty sure the writers' room were like, so Poochie?
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
and
feel the Prid?
Yeah. Feel the Prid? Because Prid is like pride without an E. Like an E could have fallen off and Homer could like read it. All right, it's time for lunch.
That was take your child to work day. And a kid came up with that. And they were like, okay, Jimmy.
You got it. Kind of jumping ahead, but I just want to point out that I was keeping track. I did not laugh once during the entire first...
No, you did.
The entire first
first
act.
Yeah, because there was something in the third act I remember you laughed at, and then you said, this isn't funny. Why am I laughing?
Yeah, we'll get to there. But
by the way, I think I remembered a lot of jokes from the third act.
We probably should have asked if you had seen this episode.
I would have said no going in, but there were things that I definitely remembered, and now I'm wondering if I just squashed it down in the recesses of my mind.
Well, this is a classic episode that's out in the zeitgeist. You probably just absorbed it. You know, people are always quoting this one. And
I do remember catching this one on TV halfway through when I think I turned it on when all the celebrities were in the kitchen or having dinner, and I was just like, the fuck is going on?
Yeah. Well, this episode clearly was a Super Bowl episode. It actually did air after the Super Bowl in that year, in 2005. So,
like at night?
Millions and millions of people. It was like right after the Super Bowl.
At like a midnight? When did it run?
Yeah, like as soon as the game.
Night,
They always have something on right after the game.
The networks take turns and they all put their flagship show after the game to boost ratings.
So,
like that New Girl episode with Prince, which was actually pretty good.
So nice to think that millions of people saw this episode while they were queening the buffalo wings off their table and leaving their friends' apartments.
Yeah, I think it was 23 million people watched this episode when it aired. So There's a chance you watched it if you're listening to this.
Can I say
And
one?
if you're not listening to this,
one
you're
thing
not
that
hearing this.
immediately bothered me about this.
Yeah.
LeBron James looked nothing like
No,
LeBron
nothing
James.
at all. LeBron James. Like, they didn't even try.
So there's a point I want to kind of bring up that I've been in the back of my mind a few episodes now, and I guess we should finally say it out loud.
Okay.
You
We're all gay. Wait, what?
You mentioned how you didn't really laugh. And I guess you guys don't see us watching the show, obviously. I laugh a decent amount when we're watching it. Just naturally I laugh, even if I don't find it particularly funny.
Yeah.
And this is something I noticed even when I took a TV sitcom and sketch writing class in college, and my favorite part was that we would all bring in DVDs of our favorite shows, and we would watch them.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and we would, and just even
You never watch TV with an audience.
exactly,
So it's great
and
to
when
see
you
it.
watch
Yeah,
it with
yeah.
a group of people, the more subtle jokes are kind of funnier because everybody's collectively laughing, and just subtle jokes, a look here, a look there, a very subtle line.
Yeah.
We'll get a big laugh, like maybe one person will get it and laugh, and then it'll kind of. Anyway, my point is, you do kind of appreciate and laugh out loud more at comedies when you're with a bigger
In a
audience.
group, yeah.
So. Most of you guys that are listening to our show and girls,
You're angry loners watching it by yourself.
I'm assuming you're angry loners watching it by yourself, or
The
maybe,
unemployable.
Yeah, of course. alcoholics.
maybe you're watching it with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. So that probably helps a little. But especially when we have a guest here, especially when we have a third or fourth person in the room with us,
Yeah.
I do feel like it gives the show a little
the
bit.
bar's lowered a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as what we're
I think
laughing
we
at.
find the show a little bit funnier, and we'll boost it a little bit higher in the humor and other categories.
Yeah.
A little higher than if we had said, let's watch this at home by ourselves and then come and meet and talk about it.
Right. Well, because I didn't laugh so much in the very beginning, I was very cognizant of. I wrote down every time I laughed in this
Yeah.
episode, so
So-
I can point that out.
I guess my point is there's probably a slight handicap to every single episode we cover on the show because we enjoy each other's company and we're probably just having a better time than if we were watching it at 8 o'clock at night by ourselves
Right.
on TV.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. It's more fun, sometimes we. Cut this.
I had pancakes. And
Is this the end of the Pancake Trilogy at last? Okay, so they're at the park, and then the crazy cat lady comes in, but here's the twist. She's not crazy at this moment. she's just cat
talking
lady.
normal. Tress McNeil?
Yeah, I think it's Tress McNeil. So she comes in and she's just like, oh, this park has gotten so bad. And they're like, aren't you the crazy cat lady? And she's like, I'm on pills. And Marge's like, those are Reese's Pieces. And then she's like, oh yeah. And then she starts throwing cats. And it's just like, it wasn't funny. And I was just like, man, they're really trying to make that cat lady character a thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Like,
several
Hey,
seasons.
speaking of
Yeah, oh,
making
yeah.
characters a thing, this was the episode where they gave comic book guy a name.
Oh yeah, well we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
I got something to say on that.
Can you play the song "I've Got a Name" in the background of this while we talk about this?
We can, we're not
Jim
going to.
Yeah, okay.
We can do anything we want. We can just end the show right now.
But we won't.
But we won't. No.
So the crazy cat that a couple of weeks ago we were talking about how the means don't justify the end. Sometimes you'll have a really long setup, and the punchline is actually not that bad, but you had to go
Right.
through so much eye-rolling, cringeworthy, just shitty post-classic type humor to get to that point. So I actually liked when Marge goes, "Those are Reese's Pieces," and the cat lady instantly just becomes crazy and starts pulling cats out of her jacket and throwing it.
Yeah.
I like that madcap because it was very fast-paced. It was literally, "These are Reese's Pieces," and then boom, she's crazy. cat lady.
Immediately she's throwing cats.
I
again.
laughed at that. I like that, but God, there's just the whole setup between this is boring exposition, and aren't you usually crazy? And
Yeah.
even just her it was very we've said it's like the hey, it's Tim Conway,
Right.
Where it's just like, hey, it's the crazy cat lady. Aren't you usually crazy?
Which they almost literally did again later
Yeah,
with all
later.
this celebrity
Yeah, I
guests.
wanna
It was
bring
like,
it up
hey,
again
aren't
later.
you Michelle Kwan?
Yeah,
And we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, this episode was lousy with that kind of stuff. And then they finally get to this carnival thing. I thought it was kind of cool that Skinner was running the carnival and he was in his B Sharps outfit. Did you guys notice that?
I did not notice that.
He was dressed in his B Sharps outfit. That's it. So there you go. Okay, moving on. So they're at this carnival, and Homer is losing at the games. He loses at the auction to Flanders, and he's like, isn't there anything I'm good at? And he finds a porta potty, and he goes inside, presumably takes a shit. It shakes and makes
There's game sound effects.
yeah, and he comes out and he's got a teddy bear. What do you guys got? What do you think of this? Dan, what do you think of this?
Well, the three of us this weekend went down to the Jersey Shore where there were carnivals and
This is
game
true.
rides and stuff. And I
And
thought
I didn't get anything for pooping.
yeah,
And I did it.
And it made me think of that and that's as far as I got. Like,
Yeah,
it made me think of that.
It's like,
And
oh,
that's
yes,
it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember a time where I also played carnival games.
Yeah, is this relatable?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That's as far as I got with it.
I guess on paper, on like an intellectual level, I appreciated like the weirdness, the zaniness of the joke that he like when it actually became a game and he won a thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't laugh. I didn't get anything out of it.
He either pooped out a teddy bear or he pulled the teddy bear out of the poop. That's what I got out of it. And it was
Best not to think about it.
That's not to dwell.
It's just zany.
It's
That's
just-
all it is. It's Zane.
We don't
Zane,
have to be
is Zane
realistic.
the noun form of zany.
Zane.
It's just Zane.
One Direction's
Yeah.
Zane Malik.
It's just Zane Malik.
Is that-
guys.
is that
Just
a thing?
deal with
Well,
it.
formerly from One Direction,
Oh,
he
yeah.
walked away from the band.
It's
this
just
makes me-
formerly One Direction member Zane Malik. Guys, okay?
I could see him walking through an episode and being like, is that former One Direction singer Zayn Malik? And he's just like, what's up, guys? I don't know how he talks.
This makes me feel
that was
so
it, that was
old.
it.
Like One Direction's such a huge, popular thing that everybody knows,
Yeah.
and I don't know anything.
Have they been on The Simpsons? I'm sure. If not, they're
I
primed
don't
to do
know.
it soon.
It makes me
I
feel
don't know.
really old that I don't know anything about them or who they are.
That's because you don't have a wife who loves them.
And there's like, you're a music critic. I always found this interesting that like in 10, 15 years, the tastemakers, the people who will be having your job and like writing reviews, they will be saying they grew up in One Direction and they will have like that same nostalgic, like, no, they're legitimately good. They serve their role in pop culture.
15 years, a writer like me, as a format for an interview, will go on a date with Zane Malik.
But they're gonna in 10, 15 years they're gonna say no, they're legitimate. They contributed to pop culture and they're a real thing and you should enjoy them for what they are. And I'm gonna be like, I don't know who they are. What
Well,
do they do?
They
have-
have some good songs.
like
One
it-
Direction. Do you not know any One
That-
Direction
I don't know
songs?
anything. I don't know anything.
They have
That's
like
what I'm saying.
baby love,
best song
love
ever?
baby.
I don't know. Like the way I can nostalgically appreciate NSYNC or Backstreet Boys right
Right.
now is how I feel they will be in 15 years. But I'm already out of the loop. I can't relate to that. And like if I write something or if I watch
Well-
something that somebody else writes, there's going to be this weird disconnect where I have
Well, Jack,
Yeah.
nobody's future
called getting
is
old.
written. You know, you can
That's true.
you can start learning about One
You
Direction
can
now.
still be a 1D fan.
Yeah, and then 15 years from now, you'll get those 1D nostalgia jokes.
Do they call themselves 1D?
Yeah.
Don't they realize the irony that stands for one-dimensional?
Okay, Jack's not a directioner. We've established
clearly.
that. He's more in the Bieber camp. We get it. Okay.
He's clearly a Louis fan. Louis is in One Direction. That's someone who's in One Direction.
I like the show Louis with Louis C.K.
What are the
He's my
Bieber?
one.
What
You
are,
big nerd. We're talking about One Direction, not beloved comedy icons.
what are the Bieber people?
Beliebers.
Believers. Yeah,
Yes.
Jack's more of a believer.
He's more of a believer. We
Yeah,
understand.
you're a Gaga monster, Jack. Okay.
I do like the Gaga. I'm
Yeah, I
one of
remember
her,
from
I'm-
when we were on this.
Yeah, I'm one of her precious little monsters.
Yeah, I'm more of a B sharper. Baby
Which
on
brings us
board.
back full circle. This will all be cut into the deleted scenes.
Damn, that's some good stuff in there.
Okay, so then Homer sees Bart playing that frog ball game, or whatever the hell they called it, and Bart wins. He gets this giant stuffed squid kind of thing. And then Homer comes over and miraculously, the frog like jumps up and down on the lily pads and lands on the grand prize. I like that they take the prize away from Bart and then give it to Homer, which wouldn't happen. They would just both have won.
both
All
have
right, come
one.
on, that's a gag, though. I mean,
Yeah, no, I
let's
know.
give it to
It's
them as
just-
a gag.
Right.
We don't know the rules of this game. Maybe it's more like a shuffleboard kind of game, and if you do
If you
knock
knock
the
him off.
frog out, you
Okay,
get it.
I guess that makes
we
sense.
don't know what the rules are. We're assuming it's frog bog, but it.
Don't tell me I don't know the rules to frog bog. All
But
right.
then, if I may advance this a bit,
Yes,
he
you
does
may.
the dance for what is like, I think, 28 minutes.
Way
How long did he do the
too
dance?
easy.
We've
was the rest of
we've
the
had
episode.
moments on this podcast where we watched something and we were like, I can't believe it went on this long. I think this might be the new record holder for I can't believe.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times I said, "Wow, it's still going," and then that
Yep,
was
and
like
it was
a minute
not
ago.
the end of it. Yeah.
But you know, like there's jokes to be made about something going on too long. I think is a funny gag if done right. Of
course.
You know,
It
I
can
hate to
be
give
done
it to
well,
Family Guy, but they'll do that. They'll just stretch something out, or like Will Ferrell was a big fan of just stretching something out until it was funny again.
Yeah.
This was just like not funny the entirety of it.
Wasn't funny to
Just-
start. Definitely wasn't funny at the
and
end.
it didn't like, oh, this has been going on for so long, haha, now it's funny because it's been going
never
on for
hit
so
that
long.
point.
It didn't. It was just like, please stop what you're doing.
It could have somehow, but I think there was just an added level of it, like that Homer had just taken this thing from Bart and it's just like, in your face, you suck, I'm better than you, and it's his father, and like,
And it was such a not big deal. It wasn't like a big championship game or
No,
anything. It was
there
a
were no
stuffed
stakes.
animal.
No
Yeah,
stakes
there was
at
no
all.
stakes. So that they
And
didn't
it
earn
was just-
that. And then it's also the joke itself, the substance that's being extended is terrible because this is something else we've covered on the show before.
Yeah.
Homer's gibberishy yelling. Where
Yeah.
He's just,
Oh, yeah.
At first he was like, boom, shakalaka.
You got to go.
Yeah, it's just Dan Castellano.
Oh my God.
It's clear that Dan Castellano just gets a kick out of doing this. And I bet you when you're in the recording booth and like in the studio with him doing it with the mic, it's probably really funny. But it doesn't translate. And
No.
it's just not funny, and they've done it from time to time, and they've done it extended jokes with it, where he just kind of goes off on a rant. They've let it drag on. This, I mean, was a new level.
Goes full Dennis Miller.
But God,
goes off on a rant here.
but it was just not funny, and to just keep doing it. And you're right. I think they pretty much, Will Ferrell and Family Guy aside, I think they pioneered the extended take with the rape gag in Cape Fear. Like that might
certainly
that's
one
like
of
the
the
best.
best
That's like the
moments of it,
Godfather of doing a joke too long.
Because that was, you know why? Because that's a joke that, okay, him stepping on a rake is like, ha. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's a funny gag. And then the more it goes on, the ha's go down. But then all of a sudden, it goes up. At no point did you go like, ha, Homer's dancing.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is annoying. Oh my God, this is still annoying.
This is
still
really
annoying.
I can't believe
And
this is
it
still
didn't
happening.
add
Much like we're
anything,
talking about it right now.
Have you ever seen, there's a video, there's Kristen Shaw and her comedy partner, I can't remember his name, they did like an experiment on this very thing, let's call it the Rape Gag, where it's the same joke over and over and over, and they just really wanted to see what the line graph of like when it's funny, when now it's not funny anymore, now it's funny again, and they really just did like an experiment to see, and it's literally them dancing on stage, and it was something like, Kristen Shaw likes a horse, or something like that, and they just say this one annoying line over and over, and he's like slapping his knee, and it's a beat, and it's Kristen Shaw likes a horse, and they do it for like 16 minutes, and like the crowd is just like, and then it's like, oh, this is getting funny. Wow, it's 4 minutes in.
They've committed to this bit.
And then I can't remember at some point, I think they lost him again, and like people were shocked at just how far they took it.
Yeah.
But again, that was more of an experiment than in comedy, and it was
Then an episode of The Simpsons that aired after the Super Bowl.
and there was like a weird energy to how it was very repetitive. It was the same 6 seconds. It was kind of just unlistenable gibberish.
Can I say one thing, not so much in this episode's defense, but just to play devil's advocate here?
Okay.
So we, as Simpsons uber nerd aficionados, are criticizing this episode on its merits as a Simpsons episode and its jokes and its reference to the canon, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
The 32 million people who watch this just wanted to see Tom Brady as a friggin' cartoon. You know what I mean? So,
Probably.
I don't think that anybody else in America gave a shit. Like, we're talking about people who, no disrespect to people who like the Super Bowl, but we're talking about, like, Bud Light commercial America here. This is, this is not, like, comedy nerds who know about Kristen Shaw. This is just, like, America. Who just wants to see LeBron James.
I heard that Kristen Shaw was going to do the Super Bowl this year. She's going to do this horse thing and just like push it.
Man.
Just,
I would watch the
that would
Super
actually
Bowl.
be awesome.
But to that point, I mean, The Simpsons in its classic years was beloved by comedy nerds and people with more niche. And
It was a
sophisticated
mainstream
taste
show, but it was also very smart.
But it was also it was a mainstream show, like a mom and pop America. My grandma loved this. Like they could appreciate.
Like it can work on multiple levels.
Yeah.
The
But the
broad
part that
humor
caught
and the
on with
satire.
America was like, don't have a cow man. You know, like that's the stuff that like made it.
That's what launched it off.
Originally,
But that's
yeah.
but the best seasons that are like the seasons 5, 6, 7. They were less don't have a cow man.
Oh yeah,
and more,
but then it was still
more
riding the
Icarumba.
popularity that it had. But
So like The Simpsons has proven that it can be on multiple levels. It could be appreciated on a really smart level. And it could be appreciated by
Kitsch
my
or
grandma. Who drank Coors Light, not Bud Light. Yeah. But
She should go back to Canada then. This is Bud Light America.
Coors is Canadian.
No, of course it's very American also.
man, we're only in like the second minute. Of
Yeah,
this.
no, we take a long time here.
All right. So I do like that, again, we were mentioning how the structure kind of intertwined in the A and B plot. I do like that even before the Passion of the Christ stuff, they did bring Flanders Camera back. Flanders videotapes this dance for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I do like that at least it wasn't just, I mean, you wouldn't even give it a second thought if it was he just randomly had a camera. But it was nice that they tied it into that first
Right,
scene
like
where
he just
won
bought the camera, yeah.
So he's videotaping the dance.
He videotapes Homer dancing, and comic book guy comes over and says, "Oh, I'd like to put this on my nerd website." And Flanders is like, "I don't believe I know who you are." And he goes, "My name is Jeff Albertson, but most people call me the comic book guy."
Yeah.
And that was it. And that was the
Yeah.
first time his name was revealed.
This was the first one?
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that
Well,
moment?
you got to think of the Seinfeld episode where they based a whole episode around knowing Cosmo Kramer's first
Yep.
name.
But
and
that
this
was 1/4 of and the most breakout character of the show.
Yeah,
This is
true.
but this was
True.
just very unceremonious.
What did you think, Jack?
I don't care. It's you want to give him a name eventually. 16
But
seasons
also,
in,
like,
that's fine.
why?
Okay, so
Why? Why
I have a
does he
quote.
need
I have a
it?
quote.
Why
here
does
from-
he need a
I have a
name?
quote here from Al Jean,
Okay.
who said,
Oh boy.
"That was specifically done to make people really mad. We just tried to pick a generic name. It was also the Super Bowl show. We did it so the most people possible would see it."
Wow.
So
Well,
what do you
I'm
think?
a
What do you
good-
think of that? Do
I'm
you
a good-
like it more that way?
I'm a good fan. I'm a big fan of trolling. I love a
Yeah.
good troll. I
But
really do.
I don't like trolling.
But you're doing it at the expense of your own show.
Yeah.
It was just a dead air moment for me in the episode. It's
I
just
get
like,
the-
oh, his
yeah.
name is Jeff Albertson.
I mean, I get the idea that
I'm fine with it.
the joke is that his name is boring.
Right. It's an
If it was,
anti-joke.
if it was Cosmo Kramer or something like that.
Right. I have
yeah.
another nugget of wisdom from Wikipedia here. Matt Groening was not in the writer's room when this was decided, but he had a name he wanted Comic Book Guy to be called. Lewis Lane. Which I think is much worse.
It is.
Wait,
I think
worse.
that's pretty terrible.
That's a fun name.
It's a funny
but not for
idea,
comic
but you don't
Man,
want a character
If they
to be
were
mad.
just making people mad, they should have gone full troll. Not to tell
Yeah.
Al Jean had a troll here, but I know a little something.
He should
And
have
they
been like
should've
Homer
just-
Sampson or
No,
something.
like farty McButt shits. You know, like just something.
How about this? I know they've established in the late seasons at some point that Shauna, Bart's on again, off again girlfriend, is actually Chalmers' daughter.
Right,
But
we
what
watched
if
that one,
what
I
if
think.
Comic Book Guy was Chalmers' son? What if he's like, I'm Jeff Chalmers? It's like, oh, any relation to Superintendent Chalmers? He's like, unfortunately, something like that. And
that would have been
and
better.
you find out that he's like this 30-year-old, comic
Has
book
there-
nerd, and he has like a well-to-do parent. That,
Yeah.
Has there been an episode where they explore the backstory of Comic Book Guy?
Well, there's the one where he and Agnes Skinner fall in love.
Sure.
Which
Who can forget that one?
It's from season 12. It's called Worst Episode Ever. We have not done it yet,
Yeah,
but we are going
but
to
in
at some
terms
point.
of
for our
biography,
namesake.
I don't think they've done an origin story. I think they were going to, but then they decided it would make more sense to do it on Moe's Rag.
You know what would be amazing? Just the episode to truly just kill the show forever and ever.
Yeah.
They should have an episode where it's like Comic Book Guy, Crazy Cat Lady, Gil, like Sarcastic Guy. They just give backstories that are terrible for all the characters in one episode, and that's the end of the fucking show. Nobody ever wants to watch it again.
That wouldn't be so bad. I actually
yeah.
kind of would like that.
a first day of camp.
Yeah, like Wet Hot
Yeah, like a
American
Wet Hot
Summer.
American Summer type
I was just
thing.
thinking that, yeah.
I actually think that could be good.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. It's like a terrible idea. Like, let's give stupid backstories to all these things. But like Wet Hot American Summer did. Like, you make it ridiculous, you'd go over the top.
Those 5 characters are actually Cylons from the original Earth.
Actually, they actually did have a Gil. Well, I don't know about the other ones, but there was that one Gil-focused episode where you like stayed in their house
Kill
for
Gil.
like
Yes,
3
we
months.
watched that one.
or something.
we watched
They were
that
not fans.
right
That one
after, I think that was the
actually-
episode.
I think it was after
right after
That
we
one
watched
wasn't that bad though.
It was okay. I think it's somewhere in the middle of
Al
our
Jean
list.
tweeted at us and reminded us that it won an Emmy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah. So then the video goes viral, like Jack said before, and there's like a montage of Homer. Different like country silhouettes come at him while he's dancing, and like you hear like a French guy laughing.
So the countries, I guess, represent where the internet's go. Where it's catching on, where this video is catching on, and then each country has a laugh. Like you can hear the people of that country laughing in a
Like
stereotypical
in France, it
way.
would be like, ho, ho, ho,
oh,
ho.
and in Japan it was like, oh.
Yeah, and then Australia was like, Antarctica was like penguins.
Yeah, right. What did you guys think about that?
I didn't think anything.
Yeah, it was just like, what? All right, fine. This is one way of doing
It
this.
wasn't what I would call painfully unfunny, but it was unfunny.
I feel like we could have, instead of like a weird montage, seen like people in the different countries watching it and like do like some visual jokes that way, as opposed to just like funny-ish laughing.
Yeah, it's kind of lame.
was lame.
I have a question.
Sure.
So this part of the act is about Homer's video going viral and going everywhere.
Yep.
What year did this air? 10 years ago, right?
This was 2005,
So
I believe.
there were viral videos back then. This is pretty much before YouTube took off.
Yeah,
So
YouTube probably started in 2005, yeah.
And if this was early 2005 because it was the Super Bowl, so YouTube might not even have been a thing yet.
It probably wasn't.
So I know there were viral videos. I even had one in like 2002, and I know like E-Baum's World was the place to get them and stuff like that. But were they really like part of the zeitgeist? I was kind of surprised that the Simpsons would go with a plot like Homer makes a viral video
Right, this early, before it was actually a
before
thing.
viral videos went viral.
Weird side note, YouTube was actually founded a week after this episode aired.
You think they were like,
they saw
if
this.
only somebody had a place to put these Ned Flanders recorded
You
videos.
think? No, it wasn't. Well, this episode was
Well,
watched
wait, it
by
was
a
launched
billion
a week
people.
later.
Yeah,
I would think it would
they
take
started
more
in
than
a
a week of planning to get YouTube off the ground.
Well, I mean,
No, Dan's right. Clearly, they watched this episode and decided to
this episode created YouTube. And now you can't find it on YouTube. What kind of justice is that?
A new kind of gun was also invented a week later so that you could just blow your brains out while watching this fucking show.
We gotta get that gun.
So that's the question I had. Is it's not even a question, just a point to make that it's kind of prescient about viral videos.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they were not as prevalent as they are now, but yeah, they were.
YouTube
there.
really took it to another.
But I
level.
like that they had to in that sense that they had to explain.
They did,
They had to
yeah.
physically show it going viral instead of just being like, oh, it has 8 million views on YouTube. They had to be like, here's what happens with a video on the internet.
You could put a video online and download it and send it to somebody else.
I'm surprised they didn't have them plugging the cable in, dragging the file over, renaming the file. Waiting for it to upload on the internet.
Homer dance, LOL, not MOV.
I can't believe the amount of time I spent watching Hamster Dance.
This is what passed for comedy in 1997 when the internet was
May
just
I
really
say
getting
though
off the
that I
ground.
think one of the earliest viral videos is still my favorite viral video.
Which one?
The Grape Lady Falling.
Oh, absolutely.
That
is
and
a classic.
The wine.
I don't remember laughing so hard at anything in my entire... I thought I was going to die from laughing.
If you guys haven't seen it, just go on YouTube, Google Grape Lady. I don't even think you need to do any more
Grape
than that.
Lady
Just
Stomp Fail.
Grape
or
Lady
something.
Stomp Fail, something like that.
Oh, God.
Grape Lady will probably bring it up as the first result. It's great.
And it was the type of thing you had to wait for 20 minutes for it to load up. and then-
Yeah. It was worth it.
Although, ironically, I just remember I was saying how I had a viral video when I was a sophomore in college. I just realized that was also kind of a spoof of the Passion of the Christ, which
It was.
which
Do you
these
want to explain what
Flanders
your
videos were.
video was,
Yeah.
Jack?
Just kinda glad it's
so
over that.
me and my roommates in sophomore year, we watched the Passion of the Christ trailer in the winter, and we were like, wow, this is really intense for this Jesus story, and we had also just seen Kill Bill Volume 1 in the theater about 7 times. We were all obsessed with it when it came out.
Oh, yeah.
So we just came up with the tagline in 2004 when Passion of Christ comes out, the Jews will kill Christ, because the big trailer at the time was in 2003, Uma Thurman will kill Bill.
Yeah.
So we basically just took the Passion of the Christ trailer, recut it shot for shot to be the Kill Bill trailer, put the music in, and made it basically look like Quentin Tarantino made a movie about Jesus. It wasn't we weren't breaking new ground, except we sort of were. It was pretty much one of the first recut mashup trailers.
Different genre type trailers.
And it was mildly successful. We got emails from Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith saying,
wow.
great job, guys. We got a cease and desist from Icon Pictures, which was Mel Gibson's company.
Nice.
And they made us take it off our NYU webpage. But it was one of the first, I would say, one of the first recut trailers. There was one a little after that came after that really popularized the genre. We didn't really make it a big thing, but we were earlier. But there was a better one that was The Shining.
I love that one.
As a romantic comedy. That
Called
came,
Shine.
and that came a little later and did a better job than we did. But I would say, I brag a little. I'll let myself brag. I think we were one of the first recut trailers.
Well,
I just
aside from Homer dancing, which is...
Yeah, well, that was obviously the first one. I just went on YouTube and searched "Kill Christ" to see if it would come up, and it doesn't. But some very questionable things do.
Yeah, no.
So I don't recommend doing that.
Every once in a while, I should look and see if it's still there. I don't have it. It was on my roommate's computer.
Yeah.
We took it. We were so scared when we got threatened with that lawsuit. We took
Just
it down,
took it down
from
everywhere.
For a few years, you could still find it on this one white supremacist website that kept it and uploaded it on their own. And I don't think they got the satire involved that we were making fun of Mel Gibson's anti-Semitism. I think they took it face value.
At face value.
So that wasn't fun.
Like great satire.
But that's gone now, thank God. So I guess no Kill Christ trailer is better than one Kill Christ trailer with my name on it on a white supremacist website.
I'd say so. Not being on white supremacist websites is generally how I live my life. So then a generic football player comes in and says he wants to buy Homer's dance.
Yeah.
Well, that was Deion Sanders. It wasn't generic.
Well, no, it
football,
wasn't
right?
actual. It was Deion Overstreet, I think was his name.
Was that not played by Deion Sanders?
No.
No, it was Hank Azaria.
Yeah. It was,
What the fuck? Why would you do that?
I don't know why you have so many guest stars
And also,
the
I'm sure
episode.
Deion Sanders would have done it if he just hasn't.
Probably.
Yeah, he was great on SNL.
Maybe it was supposed to be him and he wanted too much money or something. Who knows?
Do they pay guest stars?
I'm sure they do.
Really?
Of course.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm.
Yeah,
I'm sure, of course they do.
yeah.
All right.
I mean, I'm sure there's some super fans, maybe like your Seth Rogen or something, who would do it for free, but their agents probably don't even. let
Wait,
them.
that was
sure
a
they get
gag in it.
something.
That was a gag in it. Homer's like, suckers, I would have done it for free. And they were like, okay, do it for free. And then he was like, all right, but suckers, I would have paid you. And they're like, all right, pay us.
What
Yeah.
did you think of that?
I hated that. I didn't think that was funny at all.
I don't know how I feel about that joke. I don't think I was like, this is kind of funny. I don't know.
It was a funny idea, but again, it was
Yeah.
just like over. It was
The
just so
delivery
long.
was kind of shitty. But back to this guest star. So when he came on, this was before I remembered that there was going to be this onslaught of celebrity cameos.
Right.
So I was like, why didn't they get either Deion Sanders or just anybody, any
Why couldn't you
professional?
have Tom Brady just do that?
Yeah, and honestly, if they didn't bring
He's
in,
got a wholesome image. He wants.
Yeah, you know
he
what's
was
weird
terrible.
about
He
that
was terrible.
too?
Yeah, but
They
I'm
brought
saying
Tom Brady in very unceremoniously in that segue gag. Why not just have him be the character, and then it wouldn't be weird that you're just introducing him very randomly.
I guess maybe again. I'm playing devil's advocate now.
Sure.
I'm not defending the episode. I thought this episode was.
You
awful.
love this episode.
I
We
really,
know
really
it.
hated it.
Stop denying it.
Dan's hate this episode.
Don't hashtag.
Dan's hate this episode. That's what I just said. No, I thought maybe there was like a little progression there. Like it's this generic, not actual football player who sees Homer, and he has great success with it. And then Homer builds up to the level of actual celebrities like a Tom Brady or a LeBron James. Like it just shows that Homer's stature is kind of rising
Right.
as a Endzone dance choreographer,
Right.
which is not a thing that exists.
Especially for figure skaters.
Especially for figure skaters, yeah. It was just so stupid. Like, I want to buy your dance and any other dances you come up with. Who would do that? He would just take the dance. It was a viral video.
That didn't bother me as much as it should have. You're right, but I mean,
It was just dumb.
The Simpsons have done dumb plots and dumb stuff like that. I mean, I almost would prefer that over Homer becomes a tow truck driver.
Yeah.
But what I'm really more surprised is I think the episode and the plot would have been easier to swallow if you had this one celebrity guest star, this Deion Sanders type, who could also be a good voice actor. I think that would be important.
Yeah.
And make the show about like their relationship. Make him like a main character for the
That-
episode.
Interestingly enough, makes me think of the Mel Gibson episode.
Yeah,
Where, like,
exactly.
Homer comes in and it's, like, his friendship with Mel Gibson and, like, trying to help Mel Gibson because he's the one who tells it like it is.
Yeah,
I
he
could
wants
see
him to
something more of that.
Homerify his movies. Just
I could see someone, an actual football player or even just the fake one they had, coming in and being like, Homer, you're like the modern man. You're America, Budweiser America.
If this wasn't 10 years ago, Terry Crews would have been perfect for that.
Oh
role.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But there was a line that we all like kind of laugh groaned at when you should just play the audio if you can. And it when
We probably will. Maybe not.
When Lisa's like talking to Yao Ming and he says that he doesn't speak English, and she's like, "Wait a minute, I've read that you speak excellent English." Cut to Yao Ming and he goes, "Shut up, kid. I got a good thing going here."
Yeah.
And so like I don't know if that was his acting
Excellent
or his English,
might
but,
be a stretch.
yeah, but.
It was
listen-
I mean,
you know.
his English is technically good in that he can speak it all. It's
Right.
not necessarily, his accent's
But
very
wouldn't
delivery,
the
his
joke
acting.
Wouldn't the joke have been better if he said it almost like Shakespearean,
Yeah.
like "Quiet, kid, I've got a good thing going
the
here."
joke
Yeah.
failed.
Like that joke in what was it, that Eddie Murphy movie, or no,
Meet Dave.
when he was like, "I wonder what the devil he wanted."
Oh, that was Naked Gun
Yeah,
3, I think.
right. Kind of that joke where you expect
Yeah.
his English to be terrible, and it's
Right,
like
right.
perfect.
I think the joke failed because Yao Ming is not a good voice
Sure,
actor.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I think that's the biggest problem.
And to be, I think pretty much, I guess we'll skip ahead here. I think almost all of the cameos were pretty poor voice acting. Michelle Kwan was okay.
Michelle
and
Kwan was
Warren
probably the
Sapp
best.
Was okay,
Warren Sapp had like one line, and
yeah, it was like I'm painting your pain. or
but
something.
Brady was awful.
He was bad.
I mean, Brady was much like his playing
He-
fine. It was adequate.
I
with,
feel like-
with under a good structure.
Yeah.
Brady and Yao Ming. Was there another one? LeBron was, I guess, okay too. But
Well, LeBron was pretty. This was
Again,
10 years
looked
ago.
nothing like
It looked
LeBron
nothing
did.
like him. I thought he was not good, which is interesting because
I did like when he dunked on the chandelier. That was kind of
Yeah, it
funny.
was all right. I didn't really like
Okay,
it.
all right. I'm trying, Dan. I'm
But
trying here.
did you guys see Trainwreck or not?
No.
Okay, so I guess I'm the only one who saw Trainwreck. And LeBron James
Congratulations.
was legitimately funny in that movie.
Really?
Yeah, I
Like,
heard
yeah,
that,
he's
yeah.
like a major. He's like the
Wasn't
second
he in
male
another
lead.
comedy like recently that was just like very heavily? Oh, the Amy Schumer movie, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's Trainwreck.
Oh, all right. Oh, I thought for some reason Trainwreck was the movie with Chris Pine where they had to stop the train from wrecking.
Oh no, that's
Unstoppable.
All right.
Which I only
They really
remember.
should have switched titles.
Oh, I thought you were just talking about the one with Chris Evans where she's on the train, Snowpiercer.
Oh, no, that's a good movie, too.
Snowpiercer's
No,
a
I
good
meant
movie.
the Denzel Washington Chris Pine movie. That's Unstoppable, right?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
cool.
like an Empire State Building.
Haven't seen it.
on
Isn't there another movie where Denzel Washington has to land a plane and he's the only one who can do
That
it?
was Flight.
Okay.
What else you got? What other movies do you
Well, there's
vaguely
also
remember?
the one where Denzel
What was-
Washington has to stop the train that's been taken hostage by John Travolta. That's taking a Pelham
That
1, 2,
was-
3
oh,
remake.
yeah.
What's the
right.
movie about the bus whose speed had to stay above 55? And if its speed dropped to below, it would explode. I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
This is just like Speed 2, except with a bus instead of a boat.
And that's our quoting for the day. Remember the good episodes, guys?
They were so good. Oh my god.
But yeah, no. Back to the point with the celebrity, the cameos. Oh yeah. So no, I mean Tom Brady and Yao Ming especially. I think they not only was it bad voice acting, it wasn't necessarily. I mean, it was bad voice acting, but it's that same tenor that anytime they get a celebrity guest who isn't really an actor or a voice actor, you get that same stilted. You know, they're in a studio, they're reading off the script, they don't really know what they're doing. Maybe they're interacting with like Dan Castellaneta or Hank Azaria, but
Yeah.
it's not what they do, and I wish they wouldn't put guest stars in that can't do it.
We talked a
Or
lot.
at least don't give them heavy lifting.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess most of these ones weren't.
So it didn't help that you have all these shoehorning all of them in. It does, and then they only get 1 or 2 lines each because you have so many. It doesn't help that their voice acting was terrible.
I would have liked to have seen more from Warren Sapp.
He wasn't bad. And I hear he can dance. My point is, instead of having this team of players, if they had just made one athlete, and instead of having Hank Azaria do his black guy voice, you get like an actual sports celebrity who can also voice act, and have him pair up with Homer and be with Homer this entire time, and he's the one that introduces Homer to the NFL owners later on and stuff. I think it would have tightened the story and made it a lot more swallowable. And then, yes, the plot is zany, but then you're kind of grounding it. Like if you're grounding it in this relationship between Homer and this athlete, just like with the Mel Gibson, but it's a
Right. Yeah. No, I think it would have been much
it would have been a
stronger.
lot stronger than this fucking yell.
The first time that I actually laughed in this episode, it was in the second. The first thing in the second act, Homer is showing Deion Overstreet, or whatever his name is. He's showing him an endzone
Deion,
dance.
not Sanders.
Yeah, Deion Smoothers.
Get Gary Shandling.
Is Gary Shandling the opposite of Deion Sanders?
Well, it's the opposite of Larry Sanders.
Oh, I see.
It
I see what
was
you've
a
done.
couple of steps.
I got it. I just thought like black football player, white comedian. It's
Oh,
like the
yeah.
opposites.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all know the opposite of a black football player is a white comedian, right?
Yeah, of course.
They drive a car like this.
It's in the
Car
Bible.
like this. But the first time I laughed in this episode was Homer's showing him the Endzone dance, and it ends with him mooning just the air, and then Lisa walks in and just stares at Homer's butt, and she's there and
That's
just
kinda
doesn't say
funny.
anything,
Yeah,
and
that's
just like
funny.
stares there. That's what got me the first time.
funny.
She was just
Kinda
staring at him.
weird.
It was really weird. She was just staring into Homer's gaping butthole.
Good stuff.
Something you don't want to think about.
No.
So actually, one of the highlights I think of this episode, for me, one of the few parts I actually really liked was when they then show Deion Overstreet doing end zones in the game, and they show it was a montage. It was everybody dance now.
The most
which-
on the nose possible song choice.
if only the show could have used that song another time in a much funnier context. But
Yeah, right.
they did.
I know.
They did. John Waters episode. So
We work hard,
But-
we play hard.
So I actually really liked the montage. I really liked all of the end zone dances. They were all really over the top type cartoony
Yeah,
stuff
they were
that you
fine.
can't do in real life. Like
Yeah.
he
a
cooked-
beaver costume.
He was a beaver and
he was a
bit through
beaver.
the-
He bit through the end post. He puts the football on a George Foreman type grill and
Right.
eats it. He
was
goes.
an
he puts-
artist.
He puts a night. Yeah, he was an artist. He puts a nightcap. No, I think one
The artist was
Warren
Warren
Sapp.
later.
Yeah.
He puts a nightcap on and then he pulls the turf up and rolls the turf up and sleeps.
Yeah.
So I actually like
Tom Brady wrote a segue that said everyone sucks but me.
I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
I see it. So the Overstreet ones, I liked all of those way better than I liked any of the Homer ones he was showing him
Right.
ahead of time, like in the previous scene. I actually liked it because again, it was kind of cartoony and it was just zany and they weren't trying too hard. They were just like, here's something silly. And I could see if you didn't like it, because it's really take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'll leave it. I didn't care for it.
At least, like, I don't know, it was simple. It was
I agree. It was a good, like, cartoony Endzone
Yeah.
dances, but like the montage thing, it was just like
Like, it took
Well,
the
you
jerk
had
ass
to
out.
show his rise to
Yeah,
prominence,
that's right.
guys. It's important.
gotta
for
lay the
story.
groundwork so we can get to that
So
sweet
I
payoff.
actually really liked all of those individual gags. I think because you were removing the jerk ass out of it and all the unnecessary fat they seem to want to put on it, like Homer
Yeah.
talks to Lisa about his job and stuff like that. Like, oh, this is my new job. And,
Yeah.
Like, just distilling it down to these are silly dances. I liked it.
Who wants to help me clear the table?
对不起，我实在不知道你在说哪一种语言。
Wait a second. I've read that you speak excellent English.
Shut up, kid. I got a good thing going here.
Yeah, let's just talk about the whole Flanders subplot. Basically, his kids are watching TV, and there was a commercial for a Viagra type drug called Jam It In or
I
something.
don't know, with an actor
Jam
who
It
looked
In, I think it
exactly
was.
like Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, I think that was the gag. It was like a Viagra type thing, and he was like, let's make our own TV. Which I thought, oh, that's not a bad idea for a Flanders thing, especially since they set it up that he had the video recorded
Again,
from the
yeah,
first
they-
They really like hammered that video thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost as if they had a real video camera and they wanted to get their money's worth out of it.
I'm surprised it wasn't like a Sony brand video camera
Yeah.
that they got paid to like.
Sorny.
Well, now that you mentioned that, so this episode did air after the Super Bowl. My Illuminati product placement conspiracy theory again. Much later on in the episode, when they're in the in-universe halftime show is happening, it's like sponsored by, and it was Citibank. Something else
Ford.
that was real, Ford and Moe's Tavern, and that was a good joke that Moe's Tavern would be
it
a
was
sponsor of the
giant
Super Bowl.
corporations and Moe's, yeah.
But I wonder if Ford and Citibank actually paid any money to be in the episode.
I could see why you would wonder that. I don't think so. I think you had
think
to
they
have.
did.
I think you had to have
Illuminati.
real corporations to make the Moe's joke work.
I wonder who
Yeah.
really. I wonder if they really sponsored the Super Bowl that year.
Maybe they could have.
Basically, the Flanders plot is a riff again on the Passion of the Christ, which had come
Right.
out a year earlier and was like one of the biggest
Huge,
box
huge,
office.
the biggest independent
yeah.
film of all time.
The biggest movie about Jesus getting murdered ever, like of all time.
Oh yeah.
And Passion of Christ, if you don't remember, it was it was such a huge zeitgeist moment, and a lot of people against it were saying, "Look, why you don't have to make the Bible so overly violent?" And then its defenders would say, "Well, that's how the Bible is. That it's basically telling the story of Christ." And Gibson purposely made it very violent so that you would feel guilty and realize what a sacrifice Christ had made for your sins and whatnot. And I think clearly that's what they were going for with why it was so over the top violent. And
Yeah, well,
especially,
I like that hypocrisy of, like, oh, it's good Christian stuff, and it is a literal, like, direct adaptation of Bible stories, because the Bible stories are, like, horribly violent.
Yeah. But you don't, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of weird to see Flanders making this overtly violent stuff. Yes, he's a Bible thumper, and yes, the Bible has that stuff, and he'd be okay with it. But then he also had the time where Rod and Todd turned pale because they thought, what's that red stuff coming out of Kitty's ears?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was a little incongruous, but
Yeah.
I didn't
I'll give you that, but-
I didn't mind it. I really was more like, just like, all right, yeah, you're making fun of this movie, whatever. I mean, it felt like a Halloween episode with the it was so gory.
Well, so they shoot, I think it was like the Passion of Cain and Abel is what they did. It
Yeah.
was Rod and Todd as Cain and Abel, and it was very, very Halloween-y, I guess is the best way to say it, because even Flanders was dressed as the devil, and he looked exactly like his devil from Treehouse of Horror 4, I think it was. And like worms were coming out of his mouth, and there was blood everywhere, and they sacrificed animals and fire.
So there was a giant pile of dead livestock
Burning
in
livestock
Flanders'
carcasses.
backyard. So were those props, or did they literally
I think Flanders
kill a
and
whole
his
farm?
sons killed the whole farm. I think that's where we're at in this episode. So
And
thanks
then-
for making us think about this.
And that movie ends with a close-up of like Rod or Todd's face completely deformed, and it was like it was really grotesque.
It was really,
and
really.
again, this was a 23 million viewer mainstream episode, which
that's a great
you'd think
point.
people would be kind of surprised to see that
scale
shit.
it back a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I was a little surprised. I'm not saying I hated it and that it ruined the show. There's certainly worse aspects of this episode, but I was surprised. And then not only the over violence, they also went over the top with the pushing.
Violence here, remember that one?
But they
It's a deep cut.
also went over the top with pushing. Look how crazy these right-wing Christians are. With the newspaper headlines, it was. So they're depicting hell, and two of the headlines were "Stem cells cure Alzheimer's." And what was the first one?
It was Massachusetts declares gay marriage legal.
Yeah, which again shows you how far we've come in 10 years.
Yeah.
That they were using gay marriage.
Legal in all the states.
Yeah,
Suck it, Flanders.
And maybe the right wing and maybe over the top fundamentalist Christians with those views deserve this kind of grilling.
Yeah.
But again, I'm kind of surprised that usually The Simpsons takes somewhat of a more neutral stance, especially with a Super Bowl episode.
A more nuanced stance.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
even.
a better way of putting it. Because
This
yes,
is
they
very,
clearly
like-
do take sides. So neutral's not the right word for it.
I feel
but-
like The Simpsons around this time especially started to grow more and more overtly liberal
Yeah.
and anti-conservative
preachy.
and preachy about it, yeah. Whereas, in the 90s, I mean, the country was a completely different place in
Yeah.
the 90s versus post 9/11, but
Yeah.
in the 90s I feel like it was more fair and balanced. I didn't mean to use this Fox News.
9/11 really ruined The Simpsons.
And you know
Like,
what?
one thing that never gets talked about, it's probably the worst thing that happened, is that The Simpsons went downhill after that.
It all comes back to 9/11 on
Yeah,
the
fucking
show.
Osama ruined The Simpsons. We would never know comic book guy's name if it wasn't for fucking Osama bin Laden.
But I mean, like, I don't want to get political, but
I don't want to go off on a rant here.
For all intents and purposes, I do agree mostly with their ribbing of the church giving shit about gay marriage and stem cells and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But I still don't
it's
like
the way
really
they do
seeing it so direct and overt.
Right, I agree
If
with
we're
you.
in a bar and we're having a beer and we're like, oh, these fucking guys with their fucking views, that's one thing. But I don't know, keep it out of my Simpsons, or at least again, like you said, make it more nuanced.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, Flanders is screening this Cain and Abel movie in the town, I guess to like a church group or something. It's not really clear like where he was playing it, but he does, and everyone loves it, and everyone's like, "I'd pay to see that again. I'd pay like to see it multiple times," which is kind of weird. Like,
Well, again, that was
well, I understand. I
riffing on
understand
the Passion of the Christ.
Right. I understand the real life analog,
The
but it was
Frank
kind of
joke
weird.
was weird, where it's like I would see it again and again and again and again and again, but not 6 times.
Yeah, that was one of those
That was
later.
their wordy,
The whole
wordy
audience
jokes.
But anyway, Mr. Burns is there for some reason.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, why would a Billy interview him?
I have no idea why Burns would be there.
Because he
It's
needed
just
to be.
because they need him to be there so he can be like, I could make money off of this.
I need to
I'm going to
finance.
finance,
It
this
would
guy to
almost
make more
been
movies.
better if he was like walking by outside and like smelled money and like came in.
Much better.
You're
That's actually
welcome.
really
Much
funny.
better,
Go,
Dan.
Algene, go back and rewrite this.
10 years ago.
Go, yeah.
Also, I mean, they also used him as one of the NFL owners, but you could also had Rich Texan, who's like the right wing Burns. I
Right.
guess.
Yeah, that would have
I
made
guess
more
well,
sense.
Burns is-
Two better solutions right here.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
go back and read
All right,
it.
we're going to rewrite this episode. Give us 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Can they air it after the? Can they air it after the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, this year.
This year.
All right, so Flanders, with Burns' money, he starts making bigger budget movies. He makes Jonah, and he's got like big special effects. And
Yeah.
first I was like, why is like Judge Schneider and all these other
Yeah,
people
why
in it?
was Judge
Why were they in
Schneider?
it?
I'm guessing he's using his church group logo, so I'll let that
guess.
slide.
Yeah, I like that
Alright.
Burns' production company was Burns' Celluloid Whimsies.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny.
Although his line was,
I have more money than you.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that part. I just like the celluloid whimsies. I like the word whimsy.
Yeah, I
the
know you
movies
do.
were just more over the top violent stuff, which I didn't feel like Flanders would make. Like the blood coming out of the which again I don't think Jonah gets
Yeah.
eaten and blood comes like I don't think that's the story. But what,
the story of Solomon and the baby isn't he actually cuts the baby and then cuts himself in
Yeah,
half,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
what happens here.
By the
think
way, this part of the episode, I was done. I
long
pretty
checked
much
out.
stopped
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
it. But I just wanted it to end so badly.
Yeah.
So everybody loves these new movies. Everybody loves them. Flanders looks like he's riding high, except Marge doesn't like him. And
Right.
Marge says, I think this is too violent. You're kind of missing the point of the Bible. It's a great stance for Marge to take. It's a great stance for a subsection of Christians who did think like Passion of Christ was focusing on the wrong thing. But, so Marge doesn't like it, so then he just, all right.
Yeah, Flanders just stopped.
Even
Oh,
though
is that what
everybody-
happened?
so
Yeah.
even though
Wasn't
there was
paying
no
attention.
explanation.
well, Burns says, I'm not going to give you money if Marge is going to protest.
Yeah.
But everybody
Our
else...
focus group of one person.
Yeah. Everybody else clearly liked it, so it really didn't
Screwballs
make
have
sense.
spoken.
And then even like Lenny and Carly were all saying, "This is great, we love it." And then when Marge
Lenny said that?
not Lenny, and then but when Marge says she'll protest the power, he's like, "What are you going to use besides nuclear power?" It's almost like they came to her defense when they were like, "Oh, you could use wind power."
I
Right.
fucking checked out on this whole.
Yeah, I
So
kind of did too.
It really makes no sense that they needed Flanders to not have Burns' money and to stop making his movies now, so
Right.
that he could do the halftime show. I couldn't believe how lazy it was. Where it was literally like Marge is like, I'm done, and then it stops. Like, that could have been an interesting plot where you do a few more scenes and beats where Marge starts like a following and gets them, you know. But her not liking it, well, everybody else likes it. It literally makes no sense.
No, I agree.
It was such shitty writing.
It was just well, we need Flanders to be down on his luck so that Homer can come to him later on.
It felt like it was missing a few scenes within, except that.
All right, well, gentlemen, let's rewrite this part then too. What would you have done?
We don't have to because we're running out of time.
All right.
All right.
That's the point of this podcast is to rewrite the episode how we want them.
They just come out and give us a bunch of money. That's how we.
Well, like I said, you could have had to just start following something. You would need a few more scenes rather than her just say, "I don't like it." Oh, okay.
Well, Jack, you had to have room for that Donkey Kong thing. You had to have 2 minutes of Homer dancing like an asshole.
There's not. These are not compromises here.
Jam packed.
Yeah.
We need Tom Brady.
No room for.
They had to
compromise.
They had to cram in that Tom Brady thing during the credits, and boy, was that good.
Yeah, and then they never come back to Flanders again until the church when they need him again. You think they would show a scene of him trying to get more money, like maybe he's trying to get money from someone else to
Jack,
do the film.
No, that's not how we do it.
It just seems.
Yeah,
Jack.
It
just seems.
Jack, no.
It just seems.
Jack.
Jack,
don't do it like that, okay?
Just why would
Jack?
Why would you not have a story?
Jack. Oh man, I think we proved our point here.
I really thought somebody was going to give a speech.
So that's it for the Flanders plot, really, until the two plots come together. I don't know that we've missed anything. You guys have anything we glossed over?
So when
when
Homer's training those celebrities, they all have hoodies on with their names on it. I guess
just in case,
just in case you don't know.
Like, how lazy is that? Like, that's literally something me and you, Dan, Dan Mulhall used to do. We used to have a comic book that we used to write in high school.
Yes.
Called The Crazy Cabbie.
Yeah.
For better or worse. And we don't. You had some drawing skills. It was kind of Matt Groening-esque.
Slightly better than you is how I would describe it.
But what we would do
like,
was literally just write the characters' names on the T-shirts because it was so unclear what they were.
It's like when you see a political cartoon and somebody's getting stepped on and they have like a shirt that says democracy. I get it now. They're stepping on democracy.
The Onion does great.
Hey, they are stepping on democracy.
Now that I think about it, if democracy was a person, they would be stepping on this guy.
I just wanted to point out before when Milhouse, we kind of mentioned it, when he was like, oh my God, it's Michelle Kwan. And that's just like the Tim Conway thing that we talked about. I guess we already mentioned it.
It's just,
it's worth repeating because it was so fucking
it's so
bad.
blatant and terrible.
And then I also laughed. So Homer is so successful in his touchdown dance company or whatever the fuck he's doing that the NFL commissioner actually brings him in to do the Super Bowl halftime show.
Kind of reminiscent of the Olympics springy thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help this episode out. I don't know.
There's no helping it. But
Your heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I'm trying, man.
Actually, there was another montage before that, which two sports montages in this episode, both set to very on the nose songs.
Montage?
It was "Y'all ready for this?" and it was more.
It was more Endzone dances.
It was more Endzone dances.
Again,
that
if
was
you
where the
would
Tom
cut
Brady
all
one.
of these characters and just made it about Homer and Overstreet, then that one montage would have been enough.
Would have been great. But anyway, Homer's at the NFL headquarters and.
They were like, no, we have 20 montage dance jokes, and we got to use all of them. I have no concessions on this. I'm sorry.
I don't even totally remember the context, but Rich Texan was there, and he said something to Homer, and then there was something about a musical about the Jay Giles Band, and everyone just high fives about the Jay Giles Band. I laughed at that because
I don't even remember that in the slightest. I watched it a half an hour ago, and I don't even.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
it was random.
I appreciate random references to Jay Giles Band.
Exactly. That's where my appreciation is coming from. It was not necessarily a great joke. It was just, the Jay Giles Band. All right.
It's a funny name for a band.
Yeah.
It's funny to say.
Wuzzle Wuzzle.
That's right. He said it.
Is that what passes for comedy these days?
Wuzzle. I think this was before. Yeah, this was before the actual thing happened. So we're at the Super Bowl now. It's the end of the first half of the game. I like that
They didn't even mention who's playing.
No.
Tom Brady.
That's for
Tom
the
Brady.
best. They don't know who's gonna.
No, Tom Brady was not playing because he was in the ship during the Super halftime show.
Right.
Well,
so the Patriots were not playing.
He could have been playing if it was during halftime. He might have been pulling double duty.
What I'm saying is, I had no investment in who's going to win this game.
No, not at all.
The Denver
ridiculous.
Broncos.
Yeah.
With President Clinton and his wife Hillary.
But
no
anyway,
emotional investment in this.
I like how they said this $300 million stadium was just completed a week ago, and it's going to be demolished next month. And then they just laugh and say America's priorities are a joke.
That was good.
That was a great, even though it's
social
like
commentary.
really on the
Yeah.
nose and like there's no subtlety to it. It fit. It was perfect.
It is.
exactly
There's
right.
something pretty fucking cool and punk about doing that right after the Super Bowl actually aired. I'll say that.
yeah.
That's a great point.
You
I didn't
know,
even think about that. You're right.
Like you can make that joke anytime, but like
Yeah,
when
doing
32 million idiots who just watch
Yeah.
the Super Bowl watch
Yep.
it and just kind of give a finger, that's pretty
I
cool.
don't know.
Yeah.
They're all idiots. I watched it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, you idiot. I watched it
Stupid.
too.
Yeah,
Little
football
Jack
guy.
likes his football.
I think that's why it worked, even though it was so blunt and direct, because we needed to hear it. You know.
Yeah.
Did you see with Brazil? They built like 8 stadiums for the World Cup.
All
and
right,
they're
so
all
if this
just
whole
sitting there.
pathetic episode was just one ruse to make that joke at the Super Bowl's expense, then I'm for it.
Unfortunately, it wasn't.
There was also
There were 22 other minutes.
There was also a great Super Bowl, a more subtle joke where, again, Harry Shearer does the best sports announcer, and he goes, "All right, it's halftime. We're going into halftime with the thrilling score of 55-6."
Yeah.
Which is great because every time that's always like the Super Bowl score at half, and they always try to make it sound like it's
Right.
it's
You better
a
still
game.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that joke.
Yeah, I like that. And then the Super Bowl show starts that Homer and Flanders put together. It's a almost literal like Noah's Ark type thing where they flood the stadium with
stadium.
water. I don't have anything to say
There was
about
nothing
it.
funny.
Well,
It wasn't
I
funny.
have something to say
Yeah,
about
okay.
this. I was just trying to put myself, like, if this was a real world scenario, this was the Super Bowl halftime show that me, Dan Ozzie, at Dan Ozzie at twitter.com, is watching at home.
Yeah.
And then, like, they had this whole biblical thing, which would have been like, okay, well, this is weird that they took a really religious stance this year.
Right.
But then at the end, Flanders, like, has the last word. He just, like, reads the thing from the Bible. And I was just thinking, how weird would it be watching the Super Bowl, which, like, 1 billion people worldwide are watching, and then some guy in a sweater just comes on and reads the Bible. Like, not Beyonce.
Give it 5 years.
That would be weird.
Like, how
Give
they've
it
been
5
so
years. We might be there.
Well, in the show, everyone boos right after that.
Yeah.
They boo the whole thing.
But before that,
Which was
wasn't it
surprising to
kind
me.
of anticlimactic? Weren't you expecting something to happen rather than just a straightforward, all right, Flanders is doing another religious...
You're right. And I
I
actually,
thought
I
there was going
don't,
to be a twist or something.
I don't know what this episode with this ending was trying to say.
I did like the joke in the halftime show where the athletes are carrying Noah's Ark, and Warren Sapp says, "Hey Quan, you single?" And she goes, "I am in this ark."
Yeah,
or something
right.
like that. I like the idea of Michelle Kwan and Warren Sapp fucking.
It
That's
also,
good.
it also helped that they were the 2 least bad voice actors.
Yeah,
in the group.
that's right.
So good for them for getting it on in the ark.
Like you do.
But yeah, I was expecting some sort of twist rather than it was just literally what a Flanders Homer halftime show would have looked like.
Yeah,
and the
and
only twist, quote unquote, is the fact that everybody boos at the end.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry, and I know we just watched this, but they boo it, and then what happens?
So
They boo it, and then it's like, I'm trying to raise my kid's secular humanist, and I have to
Oh,
see
yeah,
this Christian stuff on the TV. Like, what is that?
So that's
It's a
what you're
good-
right. Like,
good commentary.
what is the meaning of this episode? What is the
Right.
point?
What is the
theme?
meaning of this?
It's a satire that like people
But are they-
complain about the opposite.
But are
that-
they
that-
saying that it should be the opposite? Like, we should have a big Christian celebration in the Super Bowl because we should not.
No, I
because-
think it's
no,
I
but-
think it's just like a reimagined.
But
or
that's
like
why
what
it
if the
doesn't-
opposite were true?
That's why it doesn't
Yeah,
make sense.
It's
So
just, it felt real muddled.
if you're doing the, so they pretty much are doing the opposite. This was 2-3 years after Janet Jackson's boob gate, and it was the exact opposite where you had the more.
It's called a wardrobe malfunction.
You had the more you had the more religious like Christian side of people complaining to CBS and suing and saying.
I guess,
decency.
yeah, I guess this is
so
a
this
reaction
is the
to that.
exact
You're right.
opposite of that, where they're pretending we live in a country where the majority are secular humanists and
like
not
the
Christians.
it's like the joke. Can a guy walk down the street in America without being
being
offered a job?
Right.
You know?
So, but that's
Yeah,
that's my
I guess
point.
as a
is
reaction
that-
to the Janet Jackson thing,
But
it
that's
makes
my
sense.
point is when you do that kind of crazy, nonsensical reverse, like 180, like with the guy getting offered a job, that works in a specific joke or a specific scene. But you can't do that in a specific episode because now you're making it take place. And again, I know it's a cartoon. But now you're making it take place in a world that is not ours. So
Right.
you don't. The moral of the story doesn't work because it's grounded in a reality that we're not grounded in.
Not that I want to defend this episode, but
No one wants to defend
and
this
I'm not
episode.
saying that I'm hard for this ending.
Yeah.
But I will say that I get it.
Okay.
I think it's fine. I think because like yes, obviously the actual reaction.
But what's the point? Are they saying that the reaction is you shouldn't have an over-the-top reaction? Are they chastising the reverse, the Christians for giving the shit about boobgate?
Are they saying that everyone is just too uptight about everything?
Like they're
I don't think it was a clear...
because after like the Janet Jackson thing happened, you have people who are like, I had to explain to my son why he was looking at boobs. Yeah.
So are they saying?
And then there's that at the
ridiculous?
end. There's that line where there's a kid who's like, "Mommy, why wasn't I baptized?" And it's just like,
right. It's the reverse of that.
But yeah, so that it's clear that it's a 180. It's a reverse. But are they supporting it? Are they saying that people were right to boo?
Jack, maybe you don't have to be on a side. You can just.
You have to be on a side. From a storytelling point of view, you gotta pick again.
Maybe you can just present it, and people can make their own decisions.
I don't think they were making a point, and I think that's the problem. I think it just came across as just like, here's the thing. Like,
no,
we see what you did there.
All right, I don't want to keep hard defending this, but
we're gonna keep giving it shit so that you have to keep defending it.
I get it.
This episode's gonna go for 10 hours.
They were just like, wouldn't it be funny if our country had its values intact and we were bummed by like having religion thrown down our throats on national TV? It was just like, what? Like what?
That's
if,
not saying anything. That's like,
it's kind of pointing out the hypocrisy. Like what?
There is no message to this episode. I think that's what we're falling on, right?
Oh, but remember when he chewed through the goalpost?
Yeah, that was a classic
that was
moment.
good stuff. Oh man,
all right,
like he was a beaver. What? I think you're not a beaver. You're a football player. Oh man.
I think we spent just enough time in this episode. Do we have anything else before we rank it?
Yeah, Homer was bummed. He should have went with his original idea, sending a crocodile into space.
Yeah.
And I thought that was adorable. The drawing.
Yeah.
Can we, like this episode, can we end 2 times on 2 disappointing notes?
We can. But before we end...
But no, they do. So we were happy it ends, and then they do come back. You actually were happy that they ended with a somewhat strong joke. Right?
No, I was being 100% ironic when I said end on a strong joke.
No, it was terrible.
I don't remember what it was.
There was a bad... I don't remember what it was either. I don't know why
And then I don't remember the second one
But then,
either.
so then they cut to the credits, and we're all like, thank God this
Wasn't
piece
the
of shit
second
is
one
over.
like a Tom Brady?
The second was Tom Brady said something.
And it was I think it was just a deleted scene that they was like, oh, this is too funny to leave on the cutting room floor. Let's.
And you know, deleted scenes are never good, right? Hey guys, listen to our deleted scenes episodes.
But yeah, I couldn't believe you're gonna go out of your way to put something in the credits, and then it's so awful. Like, what? Why bother?
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, do you guys think Homer's mad at me? I waved at him in the parking lot, and he stared right through me.
I left the People's Republic for this? Yo, Michelle, you got a boyfriend?
Not in here, I don't.
That's it for Homer and Ned's Hail Mary Pass. We are going to rank it, and we do that on a factor of four factors. A factor of 4 factors. We're looking at the humor, the integrity, the production, and the originality of the episode. Dan, you don't have to do anything this part. We'll ask you for your input,
Right.
but
I'd like to throw out just a random number.
all right, we're gonna want you to do that. So we're gonna look at the humor, the integrity, the production, and the originality of this episode. Humor and integrity are valued more here, and we're gonna do that on a scale of 0 to 5. So we'll put some time on the clock. Beep, boop, beep, boop, boop. There we go. And okay, the humor of this episode. We'll start with Dan. What did you think about the humor of this episode? Scale of 0 to 5.
So all
5
the best,
being the funniest episode you've ever seen in your life.
4.55 is pretty much all of like season 1 through 8.
I was about to say I'd rank it like a 4 in terms of humor, and I think that's being pretty generous.
Wait, a 4 out of 5?
I thought it was out of 10.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
no, yeah, out of 5.
Oh.
So a
well,
2.
I was very
2.
surprised.
Yeah, it's like a 2. Then.
Okay, Jack, what do you got?
I feel like it wasn't painfully unfunny. I'm trying to think of jokes I liked. I feel like it doesn't deserve a super low score. I'm wavering between 1.5 and 2.
You guys are both crazy. I'm giving it a 0. This episode,
What?
it was terrible.
It
was bad.
This is a 0
But
episode. It was not funny.
It was not funny, but none of the jokes were like,
Painfully
I
unfunny.
hate this. Like, fuck this.
It was
I
bland.
hated this episode. I really
Right.
was uncomfortable watching this
You're-
episode
you're
because I
entitled
liked
to
it
your
so
But now
much.
there were plenty of episodes we watched where the jokes were really bad, and now your numbers are skewed.
No, I'm tying it with the greatest story ever told,
Really,
which I
you
also
think this
gave a
is
0.
As unfunny as the Simpsons Go to Israel episode. Sacha Baron
Give
Cohen?
me one joke I liked in this episode,
the one that we just said.
and not just Lisa staring into Homer's butthole,
Come on.
because that is not worth half a point.
Yeah.
There was
Yeah, there aren't any.
well, you know the
The thing with the things.
the things the guy with the blue car.
Well, I thought you meant the guy who looked through Marge's hair,
No.
like, as if that was funny.
Couch gag was pretty good.
It was for once we had a decent couch gag.
They were a
Maybe
totem
I'll go
pole.
up to a half point, but I'm at 0 right
All
now.
right, I'll take a half point.
I'm still at 0 now.
I'm
We'll
gonna
see.
give it. I think I'm probably gonna give it a 2 instead of a 1.5 to calibrate for your bad score.
All right, well, we'll
Can't
see.
do that.
Okay, the integrity of this episode, 0 to 5. Dan, what do you think on this? This is
This was a shill for the fucking Super Bowl, so I give it a half.
That's true.
Integrity.
A half point?
Yeah, half point.
Okay.
Homer's jerk-ass dance was fucking terrible.
That was terrible. That dings it a lot.
Flanders kind of makes sense that he would do the violent. I thought it was a little off. Marge's stance I liked. 2.
Yeah, I have no real strong opinion here. I'll also say 2. The production of this episode looks pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, the Super
I would
Bowl.
expect-
The voice acting, not so great from our special guests here.
Yeah, the voice acting was terrible. I would expect more from if you're making a movie within a movie, you can play around a little bit with the animation, like the Bible movies.
Well, they did. Like, you saw Judge Snyder get cut in half.
They made it violent, and it was kind of Halloween-esque, but they didn't play with it.
I'm going to go 2.5 to be generous here.
I'm going to say 2, I think.
I'm going to say 2.
Mostly on the strength of the Flanders stuff. And the originality of this episode.
Well,
I mean,
the structure was I
the
like
structure was kind of there.
I like that the Flanders stuff was tied in. We did, but again, the third act really made no sense. I couldn't get an idea of what they were trying to say. Besides, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we were secular instead of religious?
Plus, it's another like sports themed episode where they just bring in a bunch of sports people.
Another Super Bowl episode after the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Gives a shit.
2? 1.5?
I'm gonna go 1.5 on it. Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and Homer and Ned's Hail Mary pass, not in our bottom 10, which is surprising to me because I really hated this episode.
I thought it was going to do worse while I was watching it, but as we were talking about it, I realized it was more painfully bland than painfully unfunny.
Yeah, it is. We're saying it's a worse episode than How I Wet Your Mother, and a better episode than Lucas.
Lucas was a terrible episode.
I think Lucas was a better episode, but
yeah, I know you're a little unhappy with this. Like a week or two ago, I wasn't happy, but that's how our numbers work.
All right, that's how it goes.
You're the yin to
In the
my
Wild
yang.
Wild West.
You're the
the Yao to your Ming.
the yang to my Ming.
Okay, so that
Quiet, Dan. I got a good thing going over here.
That is it for this episode of Worst Episode Ever. If you have an episode that you'd like to suggest, you can do that on our website. It's wepodcast.com. We have a form you can fill out to do that. It's real easy for you and real easy for us. While you're there, please click through those Amazon links. And before we say any of our other stuff, our Twitter and everything, well, let's get Dan. Dan, where can people find you online?
I hope that they don't.
All right, you're going to hide in a ditch somewhere.
Just being in my internet troll corner. Thank you.
But the show's Twitter is @WorstEpisodePod. My personal one is Dan Says.
Mine's Jackie No Breaks.
And I think we had fun here today. Dan, do you want to come back and do another one?
Sure.
All right, we'll have you back next week.
Can we get lunch?
Yep, we can definitely get lunch. And if you're in the Brooklyn area, you can come to Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia. That's at Berry Park, the first Thursday of every month. I co-host that with guest of the show today, Dan Ozzie. And there's other trivia nights in Toronto, Chicago, Detroit, Ann Arbor, other fine North American cities. So Google around for that.
So next week, Dan, you got an episode for us, right?
Yeah. Gone Maggie Gone.
From season 20, I believe it is.
20.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to watch that.
Forward to that?
Look somewhere. And in a moment, we're going to get our Cut All This. If you guys don't know what that is, go to our website. It's our Summer of Fans Cut All This.
Our summer's wrapping up, so we might not be doing it. We only have a few left. But basically, if you submit one, we'll just use it at some point.
Sure.
All you
got to do is say Cut All This in some amusing, or not even amusing way.
Just say it, whatever.
Just bring it in. And tonight, we've got Shane, our listener, Shane, with a Cut All This. So take it away, Shane. And come back, Shane.
Shane. Come back, Shane.
This isn't the Cut All This, but now it is.
Hey guys, this is Shane, and I just wanted to say that my favorite season of The Simpsons is season 17, and my favorite episode is Bonfire of the Manatees. Cut all this.
I'm number one. I beat my son. Victory is mine. So kiss my behind. Boom chaka-laka-laka. In your face. Boom. Cha, ka-cha-ka-ka, ba. My son flips frogs like a girl, yeah. A boo, a ba. Who's your daddy? A boo, doo, doo, ba, ba, dow, doo.
Hey, Homer, the fries come with that shake.
Sure do. Junka, Akoko, Olumaganaga. I'm happy!